Hey Jordan, how you doing? Good to see you.
Very well, thank you. Very well.
We're going to be talking about some tips and tricks around how to keep things on track, how to make sure that you're budgeting in the right way. But before we even get into that, I think, warts and all, fess up time. I can certainly hold my hands up and say that it's not always a perfect world. I have definitely run over budget more than once on a project. I don't know about you, Jordan. I don't know if you've had the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. It might not have been drastic amounts
Yeah.
in tens of thousands of pounds per se, but in the grand scheme of things, for the size of the project, there has been moments that we might have had to change a plan that we had for a kitchen because it wasn't actually available. We had to still get the project over the line, so we up-spec'd, paid a little bit more money, or many a time that I've gone and done my costings for a project, planned for it to be a rough or like a partial rewire.
Yeah.
When the Sparky was then doing the lights, he almost blew himself off the ladder because they were on the old wiring. So we had to then do a full rewire, which cost 3 times as much as what the first budget was. So yeah, there's definitely been overspend on projects, but it's more necessity and rather than actually just me getting carried away with putting certain tiles in or certain bathroom suites and furniture like that.
Getting carried away. Like, why is it important that we really keep on to these refurbs and that we really make sure that everything stays on track? Apart from the obvious, which is, you might end up having to spend money you don't have. But, it really, the two main things for me are the ROI of the deal potentially gets impacted.
We do all our calculations to make sure the numbers fit perfectly to make the deal work for us. Again, it's all about the bottom line. In my business, I need to make sure it is fitting to make the deal work for the amount of money I'm borrowing, the timescales I'm borrowing it for, because I've got a set limit on how much I want as a return on investment. I'm never ever going to deviate past that lowest percentage because it's just not worth it for me in the business sense. So a slight change up can actually lead to a detrimental, maybe 6 months longer, having your money left in the deal, which isn't particularly even your money. It could be an investor's money, and then it just then starts to put a lot more pressure on yourself. So trying to make life as simple and as easy as possible is probably the best name of the game.
And there are ways we can deal with those things, and I think also it's about setting the right habits and the right processes on those first few deals that you do that might be smaller projects and might be just a small buy to let. But if you if you allow a budget on a buy to let to creep by 20% or something like that, it's not necessarily going to break the bank. It's not earth shattering amounts of money. But if you get into that habit and you start to move up to bigger deals and you're doing deals that are, hundreds of thousands or really, really significant conversions and developments, and you've got into a habit of allowing projects to creep by whatever it might be, suddenly the actual value of that creep is quite eye-watering. Because it's all relative, isn't it, at the end of the day? So I think this is about habits, isn't it, and making sure we've got the right processes in place.
100%.
I was thinking about this before jumping on the call with you. How much do you put complete faith into your builder and your build team and trust their budget, their quote and their budget, versus how much do you actually try to really understand the construction side of things and the costs involved so that you're able to unpick it a little bit yourself? How do you approach that?
I try and have enough understanding that I can give good constructive feedback. We're all humans, we can all make certain mistakes at times, and there might be a build that might have put double sockets in and not needed to, or had priced up a double rewire when it wasn't required, or more windows than needed. I like to do more than just the basics. I like to have at least a good understanding of the project from the construction or the refurb side of it. I like having that smaller team, and then they can bring people in and out as they see fit.
So you've got a property you're looking at, maybe you've had an offer accepted, but you just want to firm up your numbers. You want to really make sure that you understand what this project is going to cost you. What's the first step? Because having a builder go around and stick his finger in the air and go, I think that's going to be about 15k, and you go, okay, great, let's crack on with it. That's not going to cut it, is it? So what process do you follow?
From back then when I very first began, I didn't really know much about the trade side of things. So I first of all did enough research on just even B&Q, Screwfix, Homebase, just to see general costs of how much things would be. So how much is a toilet? How
Yeah.
much is a bathroom
Yeah.
sink? How
Yeah.
much is it for a new fridge freezer?
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. And I was just trying to get a general baseline,
Yeah. So
knowing that
you've got an
those,
awareness basically.
yes, they're going to be more expensive than going to a local trades.
Yeah.
But it was more just having that baseline understanding. Again, I would always get quotes, not just estimates,
Yeah.
and I'd get them to give me the quote, but I would physically always ask them to break down the quote for me.
Yeah.
So, and it's not to um, find out how much they're going to get out of the project,
Yeah.
because I tell, and I at the very beginning, I told every builder, I'm expecting you to make money here. If you're not,
Mm.
then there would be a concern, and
Yeah.
I'd be worrying,
Yeah.
wondering what it is you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm expecting them to make a profit, and I
Yeah.
tell them it's not. I'm not trying to catch out on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just trying to find out how much it is for a
Yeah.
kitchen, how much it is for you pricing
Yeah.
up a 3 bedroom, electrics and decorating and
Yeah.
carpeting.
Yeah.
So I'm almost creating my own refurb cost sheet,
Yeah.
and it's specific. And because I invest in multiple areas around the country, in Scotland and England, prices are very different from location to location. So
Mm.
I'm making sure that I've got a kind of a refurb cost sheet in every location I invest in.
Okay.
So when I'm going round the properties, I've then got my spec sheet that I can see, right, we need 2 windows in this room, and I can mark that off.
Yeah.
There's 6 rooms and we need carpet in all 6. I'm going to price that. Because I've been doing this for a bit of time now, and because I kind of know my numbers, I've done enough projects in my 7 years to build the portfolio that I kind of know how much a 2 bedroom flat's going to cost, a
Yeah.
3 bedroom terraced house is going to cost for the
Yeah.
strategy that I'm doing. If it is a
Yeah.
buy to let, if it's an HMO, if it's a flip. But I'm basically walking around the property with my phone, and on my notes tab, I then send my notes and then the pictures to my builder. And I
Yeah.
say to them, this is a property I've got. This is the pricing I'm going to come up with, but can you just price it for me as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
I lost count on how many
Mm.
refurb spreadsheets I've had to create for each
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
And it's gone to a point where I'm within a couple £100 of my builder's quote,
Yeah.
because I know, first of all, I know how much it will cost because he's given
Yeah.
me the rough figures, but also just from my own knowledge and understanding of what.
Yeah. So, so you're going to get the builder to quote. They'll then the next part of that process is they'll produce a full schedule of works, presumably. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit more time phased, isn't it? Effectively, so showing what's going to happen when during the process.
Yeah, so they would only normally produce that when the deal has been physically
Yeah.
accepted. I've actually created a spec sheet. So for each property, I've got a certain paint color. As you mentioned, it's a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got a certain paint color I always use. I've got a certain kitchen. I've got certain
Yeah.
bathroom tiles, bathroom suite, etc. that I
Yeah.
use on majority of my properties.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've physically created a spec sheet that I have written out, and it has developed and changed over time from project
Yeah.
to project with little tweaks, but I've created that and then I send that to my builder as well. So
Yeah.
I've kind of got this model mock-up
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the project, and I send it to them and they know what it
Yeah.
is I'm looking for. There's certain rooms that can only fit furniture in one way.
Yeah.
There's no possibility of a bed going on the opposite wall, because then it wouldn't
Yeah.
fit in the wardrobe and then the
Yeah.
door wouldn't open properly. So
Yeah.
I've had to go into a few properties before, and this is probably some of the problem solving stuff that we're going to touch on in a
Yeah.
bit more detail. But I've had to go into a property and I've physically drawn out a sketch map on my spec sheet of where I want the socket, the TV,
Yeah.
antennae,
Yeah.
and where the radiators are going, because I know the furniture. Because if I've had builders and plumbers go into projects and they've just put it anywhere because they just need to fit a radiator
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that radiator is exactly where the headboard of the bed's going to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
and the bed can't fit anywhere else. So
Yeah.
I've had to go in and physically tell them,
Yeah.
no, look at the
Yeah.
spec sheet. So
Yeah.
they had to come in and recorrect
Yeah.
the mistakes they had made.
And I think my experience of that has been the earlier you can do that in the process, the better, because you sort of, when you're not from a construction background, you don't necessarily appreciate the knock-on effect that some of those decisions make. It's harder than it ever was really to ask a builder to commit to a fixed price just because they don't know what the landscape is going to look like week on week. So that doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily help us as investors, but at the same time, it's quite difficult, isn't it, to ask them to commit, and suddenly, the materials cost go up by 20%, and potentially it jeopardizes the whole job for them.
I need to know the nuts and bolts of what's
Yeah,
happening or what the cost is.
yeah,
But it's yeah, the the materials wise, because they've given me a quote and it is so close to actually the project starting,
yeah,
then they can those certain materials like timber, for example, then they can buy it
yeah.
and they know how
Lock
much
it in.
they technically need
Yeah,
for creating 4 new ensuite bathrooms with all
yeah,
the wood. So it's something that can be worked. But like I said, if there's a drastic change from week to week of
yeah,
material costs, then
yeah,
sure. But that's
mm,
again why we've got a contingency in place.
yeah,
Even if you're looking overseas, there's a
yeah,
good friend of ours, Asad, who gets windows from overseas
yeah,
because they're a lot cheaper. And by the time you buy the windows, transfer them across, they're still cheaper than what you'd be getting
yeah,
them
yeah,
locally. So
yeah.
looking just different avenues can be very beneficial.
So how
Yeah.
do you monitor? Do you monitor your projects? Are you, because I think you have WhatsApp groups and stuff, don't you, with your build
Yeah,
team?
so it depends on the size of the project, to be honest. And during any single project, I'll set up a WhatsApp group and I'll
Yeah,
have that with my head builder. But I'll also include all the trades that are involved in the project.
yeah,
So it means that first of all, I've got a file on my WhatsApp that
yeah,
has the before pictures, the during pictures, after pictures, any conversation we've had. So I don't need to swipe through loads of different
yeah,
conversations or emails. It's all
yeah,
in one
yeah,
base. Um, and secondly, I have all the other trades involved in that same WhatsApp group because
yeah.
it means that I don't have to micromanage everyone, or
Exactly. Yeah,
neither does my head builder.
yeah,
If the painter or if it's the Sparky says, right, we're finishing up this week at the
yeah,
end of Friday for
yeah,
this, that means plastering can now come in and do what they
yeah,
need to do.
yeah,
So it means that they're kind of taking control and onus of their own
yeah,
projects. And then if there's a problem, then they know how
yeah,
that they can move time around if they need to come in the week after to start
yeah,
because there's a delay.
yeah,
So I'll get weekly updates every Friday because that's
yeah,
that's when the builders want paid on the
yeah,
Fridays. So
yeah,
our Fridays are normally a busy one for doing
yeah,
transfers of
yeah,
money. And I'll wait till the Friday. I'll get the pictures sent through to see whereabouts they're at, and then obviously if it's deserving of the payment. So
mm,
when you mentioned about that kind of schedule of works, we've basically set out a plan from very beginning on how much time is needed for each thing of that schedule of works. I'll get them to sign it and agree
yeah,
that they understand the concept, and then
yeah,
I'll sign it as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we're both cut from the same
yeah,
page. As soon as they finish one project, they're moving on to the next.
yeah,
But if they're working with someone else, one of my builders literally calls me after any project that he's finished to say, "What have you got coming up?
mm,
What can I schedule into my diary for you?" Because he
yeah,
knows more to the point, because I don't get involved that much now
yeah,
because I leave it up to him and I trust him,
yeah,
it actually makes the process a lot smoother
yeah,
because, as you said, no builder wants the owner, the investor, to be on site 24/7 because they feel that they need to then speak to you. Whereas
mm,
all you're doing is taking them away from the job, which is going to take longer, and you're paying
yeah,
the builder to basically speak to you
yeah,
when you'd rather make the builder do the
yeah,
work that they're meant to do.
yeah, definitely. Do you ever offer incentives, or have you ever offered incentives to the builder to bring it in on budget and on time?
Yes, I have actually. So I'll do it as a again that I work with that one main builder, so I'll
Yeah,
incentivize them. If you get this project done,
yeah,
there's a Brucey bonus in there. So it's one of those things. Make sure it's done to the standard that they expect it to be,
yeah,
and then yeah. So incentives are good at times, but I would say picking the right person to give that incentive to
yeah.
is probably more crucial than actually giving an incentive.
I can see the value, because you think, well, actually, it's a small price to pay if it means that I can now get that property let and cash flowing sooner rather than later. Otherwise, I guess if you looked, what's the alternative? If it just drifts and drifts and drifts because you haven't created any kind of urgency at all, then that would feel like quite a vulnerable position, right? You just don't know when it's going to be ready.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. As if you're respect as well as respectfulness of if you're respectful to the builder, you're not going to lose your head at them. They're
Yeah,
not going to lose your head at you.
yeah,
But if you turn up on site, then they know there's going to be an issue because they
yeah.
don't usually see you on site.
What advice would we have for anybody that finds themselves in a
Mhm.
situation where they suspect the budget is they're losing control of it?
If you see something spiraling out of control, then the number one thing is don't put your head under the covers and
Yeah,
bury your head in the
exactly.
sand and shy away
Yeah,
from it. It's
yeah,
take control of it. You are
yeah,
your own business. This
yeah,
for us, or majority of us in our property ventures, we are the business. We are the ones that buy the property, sell the property, or refinance the property. So
yeah,
you're the one that can make a change. You're the one that's got
yeah,
the greater knowledge than
yeah,
anyone else, and that's how I've learned from other people's refurbs.
yeah.
So more than
Yeah.
happy for people to reach out if they do.
Fab. Jordan, thank you so much, and I will speak to you soon.
You're welcome, Mark. Take care.
Take care.